Well, you have finally got here. You are listening to the Erskine Music Podcast. Here, by popular demand, we discuss life, culture, Christ, and of course, music. These half-hour broadcasts are perfect for a commute, coffee time, chat, or any other gap in your schedule where you want to put great content. So without further ado, let's join the conversation today, already in progress.
Okay, let's get this show on the road. The reason why you are watching the Erskine Music Show is because you know when we come to this show, we're going to do what nobody else is doing out there. We're giving the definitive. David Helling should have asked me. He said, son, just do. No, if he's a white guy who said son, he'd be in trouble. But anyway, he should have asked me to do the official movie review, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to work for free. Guys, I'm working for free today. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do the movie review of His Only Son. You guys are going to be fascinated with this. Well, I'll reveal my score a little bit later. But let me just begin by bouncing with the rest of you guys out there that are listening to this all in my head and tracking. You're going, where can I find this? You can find it on iTunes and a lot of different other places. That's okay. But this, my friends, is a historic day. It's a historic moment because this was the first ever crowd-funded movie to make it to a motion picture. According to the Washington Examiner, my friends, the film grossed $5.5 million in its first box office weekend, and it showed on less than 2,000 theaters across the country. Less than 2,000 screens, and it grossed over 5.5 million. So it was behind Dungeons and Dragons. That wasn't a snickering cough. It was a I'm getting over sickness cough. And John Wick. That was a cough of we don't need John Wick in our lives. All right, so this film, and I'll say more about it, it didn't set out, the David Helling, he didn't set out to do Christian films. He wanted to do biblical pictures. He has done just that. And you guys are tuning in today because this is going to be the definitive report, the definitive moment. Get this stuff over here, in which I share with you my score, which is really the only score that matters when it comes to film reviews and everything. So, hey, thanks for hanging out with the Erskine Music Show. We'll be back in just a second after this intro. Punch it, man. Punch the gas. We're going to light speed. Let's work. Good morning, folks that are out there. So glad you guys could tune in today. If you're watching the Erskine Music Show today from any part of the globe, just give a little in the chat section. Just do this. Put your hands on the home row key, like your teaching professor used to tell you to. Put the hands on the home row key, and then type out where it is that you're from. It'll be different from everybody that's out there. But I'd love to hear where you guys are viewing from, see where you guys are viewing from. That encourages me. And it's not that I need more encouragement. I'm already pretty excited about what's going on with the show and the guests that we have coming on the show and all the different things that we have coming to this show. But I'm even more excited that you guys are joining the show today. I'm not live because I'm, once again, traveling. You can see from the white background. I'm not in my home studios, which means I'm getting way better, faster internet reception than I do when I'm at home. Go figure. We're going to correct that. AT&T, you need to get your rears out there and help us fix that. But we're the Erskine Music Show today. And we're going to be doing a movie review of His Only Son. And I'll talk to you about where I felt like there were some things that were strong. Don't hate me because of this. But there were some things in this movie that were stronger than this. They were strong in this movie. And then I'll tell you some things that were, but it was a crowdfunded movie. And I'm quite sure that if I did a crowdfunded movie, or if I did any kind of movie, it would not be as good as this movie was. So there's a lot for us to get into today. Thank you guys for tuning into the Erskine Music Show. That makes all of this make sense when you guys tune in and give your comments as well. As you know, there are normally guests that come on the show. The Erskine Big Head is normally around somewhere, lurking in the background usually. But no, Big Head is in the sanctuary over there. So we're not going to disturb Big Head. And then also the Dolphins normally join us this occasion, but the Dolphins couldn't even come today. So you're just stuck with me. I'm going to have to do the show by myself like other YouTubers do. But I do have a movie trailer that's coming up here in just a few moments. So let's do this. I'm going to shoot. shoot you guys some Erskine music real quick because this is the Erskine Music Show. Let me say a word of prayer. I'm gonna give you guys some Erskine music. I'm gonna give all the copyright and the tags and everything, and then we're gonna jump right into it. You didn't get in here to watch me cough all day long, so let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. We thank you, Lord, for your word. I pray that you'd guide this show and that you would take it to whoever needs to have this show for your glory and for the greatness of your name. All right, here's the tags. We're going to get some Erskine music real quick so you guys know that I'm not breaking any copyrights or anything like that. According to Section 107, the Copyright Act of 1976, I can use stuff like this for fair use, criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, and scholarship. Criticism. But it's going to be a good critique of this because I was quite pleased with the movie. And then also, you guys will note that LinkedIn audience is coming on strong, folks. I appreciate you guys. I finally figured out how to accept you guys' invitations. So the LinkedIn audience is growing, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you guys so much for your support. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so that you don't miss a single episode. That's why you subscribe, so that there's an alert that goes off on your phone and or your tablet and or the device that you're using. It says, ding, Erskine is on live. And then you stop what it is that you're doing. Don't drop any children. Don't, drop anything hot on yourself. But it's pretty much just stop what you're doing so you can listen to the Erskine Music Show. And so I will show you guys the trailer to this, and you guys can see how I'm going to be scoring this on the story, its technical aspects, the gospel, its impact, and then how it relates to the family. It's how I'm going to be scoring this today. And so you won't want to miss this review. All right.
Abraham! What are you doing, Abraham? All this commotion, so early. Abraham.
That's Sarah.
The Lord came to me last night.
What?
He says we are to go to Moriah, you and I, and make a sacrifice to him there.
Make sure no harm comes to our son.
Since we first entered this land decades ago, I have seen the bonds of protection the living God has placed around you.
He has promised to make of me a great name, a great nation.
We haven't even a son.
We will.
How long have we tried?
Why is the Lord having you trek all this way for a sacrifice?
I will not stand in your way.
You're not standing in the way. You're standing on my side. You're my wife.
Some good acting in this movie.
Our faith.
If all your hopes were dashed upon the rocks, and all that you loved was lost, would your faith still stand?
All right, so that's the His Only Son trailer, and let's jump right to it here. I've got a lot that I wanted to say about this, but let me get me back up on the screen here. Yeah. All right, so there were a couple of things that people who went to the film pointed out as well. I kind of had us all on super sleuth mode, watching the film and then kind of asking them what their thoughts were for it. I didn't get any type of exclusive preview or anything. There were other people who were in the movie theater, but I will say this off the jump, on a Sunday matinee, I was super excited to see that, about a fourth of the way full, there were people who came out to support this movie, and it showed because it's third in the box office right now, 5.5 million. And I think that rightly, against some of the competition that it stands against, probably should be there. Maybe could be a little bit higher, but I'm pleased that on the motion picture that many people thought that this is going to be a bust. Nobody's coming out to see it. The faith-based community showed up once again to support a movie, and Hollywood's going, we can't comprehend it. We don't understand why this happened. So let me deal with the story, the plot, the writing, and the acting, the story elements. I actually gave the story of this an 8. Now, please hear me out here. I know it's in the Bible. I know we're not going back and changing anything. I don't want to change anything. We're not changing anything. I'm an inerrantist, folks. It has been written, and it is what it is, and God meant for it to happen the way that it happened. I'm good with all of that. However, here's what I believe David Helling's perspective is, and his desire is to tell stories that come from the Bible And he wants to, when properly funded, go back and do the story of Jacob and do some of the other stories that are surrounding in that timeline between Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, kind of the span of their lives. We really haven't had somebody go and do the Old Testament since Charlton Heston, and that was a long time ago. So,
well, that certainly gives a sense of why people enjoy this show. Very engaging, very heartfelt. We will return to the conversation in a few moments, but first, let's thank our sponsors and you for all your awesome support. Moody Radio's Dawn and Steve Morning Show, Life Action Ministries, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and Holt International. Thanks so much to our partners who make such a difference. All right, let's get back to the show. This is where it gets good.
I commend his desire to do that. He tried in this movie to give us some flashbacks to kind of clue us in. When Abram was Abram, when his name had not been changed yet, he was in Ur of the Chaldeans, and he stepped away from Ur. God called him into the promised land. He had not gone there. And we get some flashbacks. We see him in Gomorrah and Sodom and Gomorrah and that scene. We see him alluded to as one who was victorious, the time of Gerar and Abimelech. But as the story goes, it assumes that you have a lot of biblical knowledge who are watching this film. I think the story struggles a little bit to captivate that audience that's not already believers, who haven't grown up listening to these stories or read this story. I think you can maybe get a little bit lost in the weeds with some of the flashbacks going to other periods. I was able to very easily pick up what the director was doing, David Helling was doing on the film and the flashbacks that he was using. And I thought they did an exquisite job of giving those flashbacks and giving us, periods of time in which the actors actually look younger, and there's some representation there. Good job. But I thought the story that should have been told for the American audience is one in which we get to know Abram as Abram. And maybe that's the entirety of the movie. Maybe his first movie should have been, we get to know Abram and then the transformation to Abraham. Because we see it all the time. Movies like Dungeons and Dragons, movies like Shazam, or Black Adam, movies like that, they're really big box office successes because they have fight scenes in them, pyrotechnics. And I know this was on a shoestring budget, but what if we go and tell the story of sort of the bad Abram, who is doing some kind of cagey things? Like he lies a couple of times in behalf of his wife, and that gets a little tricky. And, he alludes to that in this movie. He goes and whoops up some folks who had stolen some of his property at a certain point. And so what if he makes that movie of the bad A? It's kind of like the Braveheart of the Old Testament. And we see that version of Abram, and we come back, okay, we know this dude is bad. Because there was a couple of times in the movie where there's these soldiers, and they took some liberties and some license. There's some soldiers who are passing by Abram, and they're like, nah, we don't want that smoke. We're not going to mess with him because, he's the guy that's spoken about. But by the time they're passing by him, he's kind of old. He's kind of out of juice. And they actually have a fight scene, and your boy Abraham doesn't do too well in it. Now I'm thinking, you could have made this movie the second in the series of movies that you're wanting to make instead of the first, because it would have put action. We would have gotten to know the character of Abram. We would have seen the transition to Abraham. We would have been anticipating now what's going to happen in the sacrifice of Isaac. And so because of that, some of the plot, obviously the plot is already there. The writing is already there. But some of the writing and acting I thought could have been a little bit better there. So I gave it, on a scale from 1 to 10, I gave it an 8 in that area, which is still a high score. It's still a very good score. I just wanted to know Abraham a little bit better. Not because I haven't read my Bible, but because I'm thinking of these movies in terms of the impact for the gospel, and such a movie that was exquisitely done and well done. And so helping to know the characters, I find, is a thing that major motion pictures do quite well. They're able to develop a character for us. They're able to help us move into that character. And so I will say that the acting in the movie was great, except for maybe one or two actors that were a little less on par. Most of it was pretty A-list. I think there was either A- or B plus level acting throughout the entirety of the movie. And so that was good as well. That's the reason why it got an 8. Good, not fantastic or over the top. Great, but I thought that the actors and actresses in this actually held their own. All right, for the technical and cinematography, yes. Technical and cinematography, I gave the visuals an 8. As you were able to see, and I'll run it back here just so you guys get a chance to see a little bit of the visual and graphic nature of what's going on here.
Well, you probably already know that when you hear that sound, there's music on the way. After all, this is kind of a music show. Sit back and enjoy. All the music can be easily found on your favorite digital distribution channels. Turn up the volume and here we go.
Friends, your life matters because God made you, and he made you the way that you are. He made you the gender that you are for your human flourishing. Your life matters, and I wanted to make sure that I told you that today in conjunction with other things that we might say today. So let's get to our movie review now. Some of the scenery and the way that that's shot Fantastic,
If all
exquisite.
your hopes were dashed upon the rocks,
Here's another place.
I'm there.
Since we first entered this land decades ago, I have
That's
seen
great.
the bonds and protection the living God
That
has
is
placed
great.
around you.
That is great. He has a couple of instances in which he meets the angel of the Lord, and those scenes are exquisite as
To
well.
make of me a great
Stars, special effects on the budget that they had, visuals was great. Not over the top. It wasn't in the millions of dollars to produce the visuals that were here, but for what they had and the way that they used what they had, very frugal. I gave the visuals and the technical cinematography an 8 out of 10. All right, for gospel impact. And this is really where I think this movie did a fantastic job. You're telling a story of the Old Testament. And so I'm anticipating that there's going to be some lag, some discontinuity with the audience. Maybe for a Christian audience that's coming in, you're watching this and going, I don't see the connection to Jesus. I thought they did an excellent job of making the connection to Jesus, and the fact that, and they actually showed Jesus on the cross doing through God what Abraham was poised to do, but didn't do, because it's foreshadowing what Christ actually did. And that was well placed in the movie. Fantastic job. The gospel message was clear. It was transformative, I believed. And even some of the things that they're doing to follow up, I felt like this is where it excelled over Jesus Revolution. Jesus Revolution was a great movie. You can go and see the movie, come away from that movie believing a cultural commentary about the 60s and 70s and the Jesus movement. And almost like the observer that was in the movie Jesus Revolution, you can write a story about it. It was a great story. It was a great time. That was then, this is now. And not really have that next follow through of, all right, scan this QR code. If this movie has made an impact in your life, you can remember, or you want to get more information about a relationship with Jesus Christ, scan this QR code. We'd love to get in contact with you. Let's keep this Jesus Revolution going. If something like that, because you did such a great movie and a great film, would have been great. This film actually does have some follow-up to it and some ways to kind of continue in the thread of what's going on here. I know some of that is because they're trying to raise money for another film, but at least there's something for people to do. And I know that art can stand on its own. It doesn't need to have an action step, because the action step is you going and viewing the art itself, appreciating the art. But I think that the action step was appropriate for this because of the clarity of the gospel in this and the ability that people now have to be able to follow up on this. So I thought that was good. I actually gave that a 9 out of 10. A 9 out of 10 for impact, or excuse me, for gospel clarity and transformation. My fourth category, that being the impact of this movie. What is the impact of this movie? Relationships, marriage, family. Does it relate to the church? I'll go ahead and say that the impact of the movie was awkwardly refreshing. And let me give you that awkward part of it and then the refreshing part of it. It's awkward because you're watching this sort of intense, emotional, several scenes where Abraham and Sarah are having some heart-to-heart conversations about her barrenness. After having gone through that myself and having some of those heart-to-heart conversations, that part hit home for me, and I'm sure for my wife when we watch those parts of the movie. But excuse me, and that'll hit home for other people that are out there as well. But then beyond that, they were able to take the situation with Hagar, work that into the movie in a way that was biblically accurate, and you're able to see the tension that then begins to mount. And that's one of the things that I will say about this film is that it was pretty raw and honest at certain points. Like, it impacted me because I'm thinking maybe you don't visualize or tell that part of the story that way. And there was nothing graphic. There was nothing off color about anything that was there. It was just the nuance of how it was put together that was very impactful. Being able to watch Hagar and to watch the way that Hagar looks at Abraham, knowing that now they have a relationship and Ishmael is on the way, and that's not exactly the son of promise. There's some tense moments in this that I think, man, that's really awkward. but that's really the way that it was. And for Sarah, whose name actually is Sarah, who did a fantastic job of acting in this movie. By the way, I think she actually was the star of the movie. I know she's not the star of the movie because Abraham is, but I thought she was the best actress in the movie. Actress in the movie. Her subtle but effective glances at Abram when he says, God told me to do this. Well, God told you to do that, but he didn't tell me. And I'm trying to be a good wife. And so I'm going to go along with what God told you to do, but God hasn't told me to do that. And I think you see some of that represented in the fact that she's wearing some of the traditional markings of the land that she came from. And then you see they had to spend some time in Egypt because of famine and some other things. And so you've got this great parallel between barrenness in the land, barrenness in Sarah, and they pulled off some of those biblical and impactful moments very well. The impact of it, I thought, was great. I don't know for a non-believing audience if that impact is going to be felt as much, but I think that they definitely told some raw and honest stories. And so let me give this section an 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 for impact. All right, family, because that's what you guys came for. You want to know, can I take my family to this? There's nothing grotesque in this. There's a couple of scenes to be cautioned about for sure. But in terms of taking a family to it, I think you can take a family. I think you can take a youth group to it. I think it's biblical enough that you can actually do a Bible study after you watch it or before you watch it. And so one of the things that I would always say is, can we take the youth group to this film? Can we take the family to this film? And where I might not take a youth group to Jesus Revolution, there might be an older family that a family with older teens could go to something like a Jesus Revolution. I would say teens and up can go to this movie. It may get a little bit slow for a younger audience and may not necessarily be the type of film that you can take for younger children, but I think the family impact is there as well. It does a good job there. So for family, obviously family friendliness, like Unplugged, I'm going to give it an 8. And so if you're following the score, 8, 8, 9, 8, 8 for a score of 41 out of 50. And if I had my sound effects here, we would do a lot of clapping, but we don't need no sound effects. We can give it fireworks. 41 out of 50.
We have come to the end of this episode. Don't miss a final word from Erskine.
Hey guys, tell your friends about this show. And as always, I look forward to your interactions. Please contact us as you are able. We love to hear from you. Okay, friends, let's go and make a difference.